Welcome to the LibreTime tutorial series. This tutorial will describe how to install LibreTime using the latest code from GitHub. Before we start, you will need a VPS, virtual private server, or a physical server running Ubuntu 18.04. These instructions should also work with Ubuntu 16.04 as well. We are working on supporting the latest version of Debian, but there are still some issues with certain packages, so we recommend using Ubuntu 18.04 at this point. It is also important that if you are using Ubuntu 18.04, you either install from the alpha.7 release or later, or directly from Git, as this is the release that will include important changes to compatibility with the latest versions of PHP. Keep in mind, LibreTime is still alpha level software, but we have a community working on it constantly and striving to make it as easy to use as possible. We also recommend that you install LibreTime on a dedicated server rather than sharing your server with another purpose. This is because the install script requires multiple services running and modifies Apache. Also, the install only supports a single instance of LibreTime on a server. With this in mind, you also need sudo or root access to your server, and you need to be able to connect via SSH. If you're just trying to use LibreTime to test it out as a developer, you can use Vagrant. Check out our developer tutorial and documents on LibreTime.org manual for more directions for how to get this set up. I will be using Vagrant Box to record this screencast. To run LibreTime, your server will need 1 GB or more of RAM and at least 10 GB or more of storage for the OS and files. You also probably want to point a domain at your new server so that people can access it aside from the IP address. We're going to assume that you have this set up before we get started. So now, let's open up a terminal and SSH into our server. Now, basically here you would type SSH space username at domain name, and then it would ask for your password. Make sure that you have permissions once you log in to be able to run as root. That you can do by typing sudo space su. Then type in your password if it asks for it, and you should now be root. You can see where it says root at Vagrant. That's because I'm using Vagrant Box. Now you can type exit and enter to go back to your regular login. Now let's make sure we have Git installed. I'm going to type sudo apt install git. After this either downloads or confirms you have the latest version, it's never an idea to make sure that your packages are up to date before you start installing software. So we're going to type sudo apt update. This is going to query the Ubuntu servers. And get the latest packages. So for the purpose of this, I will not actually type enter here because I don't want to waste 5 to 10 minutes downloading packages, but I recommend that you go through this before you install LibreTime on your app. And that also, this will update your system software, may require a reboot or various confirmations to take care of this, and then we'll get started installing LibreTime. Okay, now for the fun part. We're going to go to the github.com/LibreTime, LibreTime. We're going to click on clone. We're going to copy this URL. Then we're going to type in git clone and then Control-Shift-V, or you can type it out. Or perhaps you can paste it directly, depending on your SSH client. So this is downloading the latest code from GitHub. I actually already have this installed on my local machine, but for the purposes of demoing it, I'm going to download it for you. After this is done, we will start the install process. Okay, so now we're going to type in cd space LibreTime, enter, and then we're going to do sudo space / install -FIAP. This will start installing everything without asking you any questions. So this should install and download all the required packages to run LibreTime, and should pop up at the end with the domain name that your server was configured with and the URL you can use to install. Go to the web install. It looks like it's upgrading the various packages on my local installation. This does usually take about 5 to 10 minutes. Since I'm just demonstrating it, I'm actually going to stop this. You won't want to stop this. Well, I'll just let it go. It's upgrading the packages. I guess I couldn't avoid upgrading the packages in the first place. It's downloading the ZF1S library, which is a fork of the Zen framework, modified to support PHP 7.2 and above. Okay, now it is installing some of the Python packages, which we use to connect with the various, use as kind of the glue to connect the various parts of LibreTime together. Now it is generating the locales, and we are almost done. Okay, So the basic setup is done. Now we just need to open up the domain. For this purposes, it'll actually be different for each of you depending on what domain you have set up. But since I have it set up on a local machine using Vagrant, I'll type localhost 8080. You will type in your domain name. You shouldn't have to type :8080. And it should come up with this screen. And you should see database settings. You shouldn't need to change any of these settings. Now we're going to go on to the next. Now this is something you should most likely change. You'll want to copy this and go back to your terminal or your root. And we're going to change this. And we're going to change the password. Then we're going to type in a new password. For the purposes of this, I'm actually going to just change it to the same password, which is airtime. This isn't secure, but well, let's just type in new password. Also not secure. You should come up with something slightly secure. You won't need to type this in again, so you could do random characters as long as you type them into the next thing. So, all right. So now I'm in here, gonna click on advanced and type in new password and click on next. Alright. For the URL here, type in the URL you won't be able to visit publicly to access your LibreTime system. Yeah. This will be automatically populated by the URL provided when you typed in the domain, but if it's incorrect or you want something else here, you can change it. The default port for web servers is port 80, so you shouldn't customize this and let you know what you're doing. So we're just going to leave it at this because it's just Vagrant. It's already set up, and so we're going to click on next. Okay, the default setting of /srv/airtime/store shouldn't be changed unless you have a specific need here. There have been reports of alternative directories not working, and you'll need to make sure that if you do change it, that the www-data user and group have permissions to write any directory you change it to. For the most part, you'll probably be fine, so we're just going to click next, and we have the final steps to get the system up and running. So now we just have to copy all these commands and go back to our terminal yet again, and you can paste them in. And you can click done. If everything is green, you see login to airtime. It was a success. Note to self, need to change this to LibreTime. Now you can click the button and you can log in with the default username admin. Login. So I was already logged in, so we'll just show you admin and had the password saved, admin. And so you can go here to settings, and then you'll want to change the admin password immediately so that anybody who stumbles upon your LibreTime instance needs to know the password. So I'd also recommend that you immediately follow the next tutorial linked below that introduces the admin settings, which include how to change the default password for Icecast 2 and configure custom streams. Without doing so, your LibreTime instance will be vulnerable. Once you do that, you should be able to get started running LibreTime by following the various tutorials listed below or just logging in and playing around until you figure it out. Either way, the LibreTime community is usually happy to answer questions at https://discourse.libretime.org. Or respond to feature requests or bug reports at https://github/libretime/libretime. let us know, and thanks for trying LibreTime out.